Shut up, compressor.
Hey everyone, Matt here with Dukes Models, and welcome to this build review of Takom's new late production Hetzer. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of questions. Why the fuck am I doing armor? What the fuck kind of build review is this? And let me get into it. So, what kind of build review is this? This is a naked build review. That means I am putting the kit together exactly as it comes in the box. No aftermarket, no filler, no paint, nothing to hide any blemishes. So we're just going to see how it goes together in my mediocre armor hands. Second, why armor? Why not an aircraft? What the hell is going on here? I like to build armor too. It's not my main wheelhouse the way that aircraft are, but I still enjoy it and I find it diverting. And I honestly feel like maybe having me be more of a casual, who gives a fuck, let's just plow through it type of armor builder might be interesting in and of itself for overall kit impressions, as opposed to watching a master like tear out and redo the welds and things like that. This is just seeing how the kit goes together. So I'm sure I can fuck it up with the best of them. As to why a Hetzer, well, it's Takom's newest, hottest kit. People seem to love the Hetzer. It has kind of been neglected in terms of new kits for a while. And despite my general squeamishness towards Nazi subjects, I have to admit, I have kind of an underdog thing. I have an appreciation for necessity driving invention, and there's a certain scrappiness to something like the Hetzer, taking a literally outdated, obsolete tank platform, very reliable, but, outdated and obsolete, and just slapping shit together because a Stug factory got bombed and blowed up, and so they needed something to fill the gap, and they could make these cheaply and quickly. Like, I appreciate that. I salute that. And so, what the hell? Let's build a Hetzer. So before we get into the review proper, I want to go ahead and thank Lionheart Hobby for their support in this review, and to let y'all know that if you want to get any of the new Takom Hetzers for yourself, you can get them at Lionheart Hobby, and if you use the code Doogs-Hetzer, that's DOOGS-Hetzer, Hetzer, at checkout, you'll get 10% off your entire order. Not too bad, especially if you load up with other stuff, right? So, with that, here is the built-up Takom Hetzer. I just finished it this afternoon. I've definitely made some mistakes in places, but instead of kind of walking through it from this angle, basically what I'm going to do is travel back in time a bit to when I finished the interior, and then skip a little bit forward to when I finished the running gear, and then we'll pick back up here at the end with everything all thrown together on top, and I'll talk through my final impressions of the kit. So, first up, we have the interior. I think Takom's done a pretty good job here. I don't build too many interior armor kits because I honestly don't see the point. Unless you're building something that has an open turret, like, an Achilles or an M10. If everything's going to be closed up, or if a hatch is going to be open and you won't be able to see shit, it seems really silly to build the whole thing out, right? But lots of people love to do these things, so I figured, what the hell. Overall, everything goes together pretty well. I would say there are a couple areas where either the parts, the fit of them is a bit more vague, or the instructions are either vague or they're told from a poor direction. So, for example, in the engine here, there are there are times where it's like, install this part, but it's telling you to, for example, like this part down here, right? This little bar, it's some exhaust collector type thing. When it was telling you to glue it in the instructions, it was like the angle was looking at like this part of the engine, and it's like, glue that over here. But there's all kinds of fucking places it can go, and it doesn't, it took a little bit of time to work out how that was supposed to go together. That was frustrating. There also, you have some vagaries like the ammo going into the ammo bit, or ammo racks here. Oh, we got a cicada on our hands. Awesome. The ammo going into the ammo racks, bit of a vague fit. The instructions aren't particularly clear on which way these little collars up here on the ammo need to face. I don't know. I did my best, did the best I could. Fuck it. It's the inside. Nobody's going to see this damn thing. But if you want to, and you really want to go down on the interior, great. Although I would recommend, you can get brass replacements for these. I'm sure it's just German armor. There's brass replacements out there somewhere. Or I'm sure there's 3D printed options too, where you won't have to clean up the seams, clean up the sprue gates, etc., and just make it look generally cooler. I know there are 3D replacements for the seats, so you can get some actual padding that looks not just like a big plastic lump. Yeah, so overall, it is what it is. I think it's fine. I don't think it's particularly amazing. I don't, but from what I know of interior kits, it looks kind of par for the course. And the critical part is, will the shit fit on top of it? And granted, I don't have the sponsons in or any of that kind of stuff, so it's a bit more vague than I would prefer right now, but shit fits. And, you can see, like, once you close this off, well, the gun's gonna be here, so you can't even look in here, like, it's pointless. But close the engine off, close this off, close that off, and there's not a whole lot of room to be looking around in this thing. So, I don't know. The interior seems kind of hokey. If I were building one of these for real, I'd probably skip 90% of this shit. Like, this would go in the bulkhead, right? Maybe the periscope. And then I would look and see where the hatches are and like what that might look like. The engine wouldn't fucking happen. No way. Not even worth it. And you don't even need to deal with it because the drive shaft here is a piece that connects to this wall. It doesn't actually connect through to the engine. So, while Takom, I think, has done a solid job with this, it really comes down to how much you care about having an interior of this kit. And if you don't, it's kind of a waste of space. But if you do, I wouldn't call this amazing, but I would certainly call it good bones to work from. Like, if you know your shit, if you're like a Tracy Hancock type who really knows Hetzers, I'm sure you could take this as a foundation and just go to town with it. So, yeah, not bad. Anyway, let's get the drivetrain knocked out. Next, let's talk about the running gear. So, I've got to admit, even though I'm not a big fan of German armor, I've got a soft spot for the Czech 38T chassis. I don't know, I think part of it is just like the simplicity of it. You've got the fucking leaf spring suspension going on, you've got these giant ass road wheels. Like, there's just something about it has a very unique profile to me. And it may be because I built that amusing hobby 38D as like a Cobra tank. I've got I had fun with that, so positive associations perhaps. But something about it I just dig. I think it works. And it's not as stupid and complicated as like Tiger road wheels, right? The tracks are Lincoln length. These tracks are dual guide teeth, so they are dual guide horns, so they go around the road wheels. They go inside the idler and inside the sprocket. Fine, everything's great, everything's awesome. The Lincoln length works pretty well. And you can see where I marked it with a Sharpie here just to keep track of where the fuck I am. But basically you got, the two pieces joined into a big long run. Then you've got a couple curved bits, straight run, curved bits, kind of swoopy sagged bit here, They're fine. Aside from like there's some ejector pin marks on, like you can see one right down here in this flat run. They're all over the ones that are thankfully hidden, behind wheels and whatnot. But I don't know, it's just so much drama to get these things installed. I used the John Bonani method of gluing all of the tracks and shit to the road wheels themselves and to the sprocket and to the idler. Hopefully that means I'll be able to just pop them off, because I'm thinking about actually painting this, not in German colors, but just, having fun with it. But yeah, for the most... Oh, get a little fuck up there. That's not that big a deal, because there's going to be side skirts that are going to cover that. But another reason I hate Lincoln length tracks is when shit fucks up, and then you're fucked. So, if I were building this for serious, I might suggest getting some aftermarket tracks. Tracy Hancock says that the Panzerwerk design 3D printed tracks for these are amazing. I would take his word for it. Yeah, that's the running gear. The other thing I would note is that the suspension is not designed to be workable. The leaf springs just kind of, they just sit in there. The individual arms that the wheels are mounted to, they can move if you want them to, but there's nothing like holding them on, so they could move and just fall off. They do kind of lock up into the into the leaf springs. They fit quite nicely, and they ensure everything sits flat on the ground. But yeah, they're not really intended to move and articulate over terrain. So if you want to do that, you've got a bit of work ahead of you to make that happen. But overall, looks fine to me. And when you put the lid down on it, and you gotta remember there's gonna be sponsons, and then there's gonna be side skirts. There's gonna be a lot of shit going on. So the tracks will still be nice and prominent, but they won't be quite as prominent as they are now. And that little hiccup over the return roller, you're not gonna see that. So yeah, cool. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to building this, and we'll come back when it's all ready to go. Moving on to the externals and the upper hull, well, I got everything together, and I'm generally happy with it. I'm not as happy as I was with the interior or with the running gear. There are just a few issues that I kept bumping up into, and I chalked part of it up to just straight up user error. I chalked part of it up to, this is my first time playing with this kit, so I'm not that familiar with the ins and outs of it. The internals don't help. They introduce complications where you have pieces of plastic trying to exist in the same place. And there's just some challenges to how things test fit and come together that I wish I had known beforehand, and that I wish I had paid more attention to. So to kind of walk through a couple different ways here. The upper hull has a whole bunch of stuff that you have to attach to the inside of it. It takes a whole lot of building time. Ammo racks, things like that. And honestly, unless you're planning on popping all the panels into the actual fighting compartment open, I wouldn't bother. There's no reason. And even if you're only popping like one or two of them open, still wouldn't bother. Not much reason. This one right here, pop it open, the periscope's going to be sticking out, right? And if the periscope's sticking out, you're not going to be able to see very much around it. If you pop this one open, you're going to have like a weird-ass angle coming in this way to even see those ammo racks. Like, it's a judgment call. If you want to do them, cool, do them. More power to you. But I just don't know if they're necessary. And in terms of plastic occupying two different spaces at the same time, I actually ran into that with the periscope, because the instructions aren't particularly clear on exactly where you need to install it. It can kind of like rotate around, and it can sort of accordion in different places, and they don't really make that clear. So I put it somewhere that left it more like over here, and that doesn't work. So I just had to basically cut it out. I tried to put some extra thin on it and move it, and just ripped the whole thing out accidentally. So fuck it, closed hatch. I also ran into something similar here. I thought that I had tacked this slidey bit down so that it would move, and a little tiny corner of it somewhere got hit with the capillary action as I was tacking the rails down, and it didn't move, but it needed to move in order to fit the little periscope doohickey for the gun sight. And I was trying to slide it, and the fucker snapped in half on me. So, user error, but at the same time, I don't know, I feel like it would have been a good, like, hey, dumbass, make sure that this can move freely, because when you go to install this gun assembly shit, that's going to have to move, right? Little things like that. The instructions are certainly unfriendly in some ways. The other thing that I think was a complicating factor, these fenders, fender sponson, they kind of play the whole gamut, right? They run pretty much the whole length. They fit fine, but there were some fit complications with like the main engine compartment bulkhead sort of running in this area. And I wish there had been a way to get everything together and really test fit everything before committing, but these are butt joint city. This has a lot of shit that has to go into it, and it's really loose and floppy on the backside because you haven't put any of the doors and stuff in yet. The roof hasn't gone on yet, so there's a lot of moving, flexible pieces, and by the time you wrestle it all together, you end up with unsightly gaps around some of the access doors. So if I were building this again, I might consider opening up some of the engine compartment doors, which would be like this one and this one, just to have some fun with it. and to deal with those gaps a bit more. I also managed to thumbprint the fuck out of it right here. Yeah, good on me, right? That's a master armor builder right there for you. Other than that, you know, I like that the gun and the mantlet here just pop right off. I like that it's nice and secured in there. That's a cool story. The PE was kind of a pain in the ass. This muffler was a pain in the ass. It fits onto like a little bracket back there, but when it fits on that bracket, the angle it sits at doesn't align with the actual little muffler pipe that goes into the engine bay area. So I'm sure a lot of that is just me fucking up the internals, me fucking up the, you know, various bits of assembly. But honestly, by the time I was putting this back piece on and I saw these gaps, I was kind of like, fuck it, let's just get this done, right? I think a lot of this could have been fixed by installing the roof and all of this shit first to the, you know, to the upper hull, by really double, triple, quadruple checking the fit of that engine bulkhead with the upper hull. Like, because I feel like that, what it is, that spread the back out to get it down, you know, to get these pieces down over the fenders. They got spread out because they were sitting weird because of that thing, you know, and yeah. Anyway, I feel like that spread the ass of this thing out a bit, which led to these things. So I think there is a world and an assembly order in which going top down, which is what you have to do with Takom's M3 Lee also, might make a whole lot more sense. Just an idea. I'm actually thinking I'm going to pick up the Swiss G13, which is the Swiss post-war Hetzer, essentially. And it looks cool because they got like one of these big wheels, like a spare wheel, like up here on the side. It's got a different barrel with a cool, you know, flash thing on the front. What the fuck am I missing the name of those things right now? God damn it. It's late. I'm tired. So, yeah, that is kind of the story of the upper surfaces. Overall, no real complaints outside of, you know, some fit issues that were probably as much self-inflicted as anything the kit did. But I wanted to show y'all something aggravating. And this hit me several times during the build, but there are some things in the very end here. Where the fuck is it? Okay. So something I found just maddening with these Takom instructions. I feel like they need to ideally take another 2 revisions through these instructions, right? So this is showing the little bits coming onto the upper hull as you get everything together. And it's like little arrows that kind of, you know, okay, so the crowbar or the bar thingy goes here, this H10 piece goes down here, these little connecting bits touching here, whatever. But then you have like K51 like goes there, and it's very hard to tell exactly. This H9 piece, how the fuck does that sit in there exactly? Like, I don't, you know, I kind of had to get over to that side and just sort of figure it out. And this is actually a decent example because you can actually see all of those things. There were some others where it's like, put this here and it just points to the opposite side of the tank, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, where does that go? And I'm sure I screwed myself several times with that, but it's definitely one where, like, take the time with the instructions, make sure you understand exactly where everything needs to go. And honestly, it might not be a bad idea to build 2 of them, so you can build one first and figure out where all the fuck-ups are, and then build another one and really nail it. So overall, I think this is a fine kit. Like, I attribute a lot of the stuff that went back here to my own sort of plowing through it. The fact that it was an interior kit, which is just going to be, you know, it's just introducing more things that can go wrong, especially for an average armor builder like myself. And yeah, I will definitely get another one of these. I'll definitely build one. You know, again, the Swiss G13 I'm thinking could be a lot of fun. But if you like the Hetzer, if you like tank destroyers, if you like, you know, Panzer 38T chassis, a lot of fun stuff here. Definitely something I would suggest going after. It's a cool looking little tank. You know, despite its German use, I am a fan of the 38T chassis in general. I like these big ass wheels. You know, just kind of fun. So yeah, that is pretty much that. Once again, if you want to get one of these yourself, if you go to Lionheart Hobby and use the code DUGS-Hetzer at checkout, you can get 10% off your entire order, so load up on other shit too while you're there. And that is it for this review. Thanks for watching. Catch y'all later.